It's not old man football. We're talking big, tough, strongman football in the SEC this Saturday. Mark Rogers TV here to preview South Carolina and Florida. The Gators come in number 2 in the BCS standings. South Carolina number 7. And of course, the winner of this game controls the SEC East. Let's make LSU the standard here. Both teams have played the Tigers in the past few weeks. The Gators, for the first time in a few years, met the physical challenge of LSU, trailed that game 6-0 at half, then came out committed to the run. Ran on 17 of 18 plays in the second half on 2 scoring drives and took control of the game offensively. On defense, they did the same thing. LSU loves to run the football, but with their top 3 running backs gaining just 51 yards on 17 carries, the Gators shut them down. Now for South Carolina, they had a beatdown of Georgia 2 weeks ago, 35-7, completely dominated the Bulldogs in every aspect of the game. Then went to LSU last week, looked really good for 3 quarters, led it 14-10, then wore down in the 4th quarter. LSU outgained South Carolina on the ground 234-58, and that's even with Lattimore playing for the Gamecocks. Now, Florida's got that big offensive line that's been playing really well. They got Mike Gillislee leading the SEC in rushing, so they love to run it straight ahead and be the battering ram against the defense. But they also have an element that LSU and Georgia did not against South Carolina this week, and that's a running quarterback. So what Aaron Murray and Zach Mettenberger could not present the Gamecocks defense, Florida will with Jeff Driscoll. He ran for $177 against Vandy last week. He's got 4 rushing touchdowns this year. And then they've got the Wildcat quarterback in Trey Burton, who's run for over 400 yards this season as well and 6 touchdowns. So Florida's multi-dimensional in the ground game. Now, let's keep it on the ground, but go to South Carolina. Lattimore ran for just 35 against LSU last week, but hit Florida for 212 2 years ago. But like they did against LSU, maybe Florida's ready for the challenge. They've gotten beaten up by the Bayou Bengals on the ground the last few years, but stepped up in the front 7, and we mentioned it, 51 yards rushing by LSU's top 3 running backs against Florida a couple weeks back. Let's see what we like for both sides coming into this game. For Florida, they're at the Swamp. That's a huge home field advantage. They had a bit of a let-up last week in terms of scheduling in playing Vandy on the road. So a bit of a breather there. Well, South Carolina follows up a trip to LSU, and before that, Georgia, and now playing Florida. So a rough gauntlet for the Gamecocks coming up. What I love about South Carolina in this game is that Connor Shaw is a better passer than Jeff Driscoll. Driscoll is completing about 65% of his tosses, but the Gators complete just 13 passes per game for $145. That's last in the SEC, and they're going to need to probably throw it this week against South Carolina to win the game. And I also love the South Carolina defense. Yeah, they wore down in the 4th quarter at Baton Rouge, but they've got special NFL caliber players on defense. Clowney, Sutton, and Quarles have combined for 12.5 sacks. And Swearinger is a great safety as well for South Carolina. Love the defense for South Carolina. This is going to go down to the wire, and I've got to like South Carolina on the road despite the way the Gators are playing right now and what they showed us against LSU. Take South Carolina 22-16. They're a 3.5-point underdog, so of course, take the points as well. Would love to hear from you on South Carolina and Florida coming up in the Swamp on Saturday on Mark Rogers TV.